Assalamu alaikum, brother Muhammad.
Walaikum salam.
How's the Arafah going?
It's going all right. In Pakistan, yeah. Today is Arafah. Tomorrow is Eid in Pakistan.
Yeah. I figured you're not in this part of the world, so where
Yeah.
where 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 I'm living, it's Eid today, so we are celebrating Eid.
Eid Mubarak.
Barakallah feek. May Allah accept from us.
I mean,
So I was I
uh,
was I was listening to you, and I was curious on understanding. Um, what are your thoughts on um, later classifications that happen for the purpose of teaching? Like for example, the classification of Tawhid or any subject which is usually there in books of pedagogy, which means books that are used to teach a subject. There's always classifications made, but you don't find these classifications always the same way from the early time. So what are your thoughts on that?
uh, I mean, I don't see an issue with it in and of itself because the major Sunni scholars did that, as you agree. But that's not the reason this is a problem for Salafis. There's a very simple reason why this is a problem for Salafis. We claim to follow the Sunnis claim to follow the Salaf and the Khalaf in Aqidah, right? Salafis claim to only follow the Salaf. Yet these classifications are not done by anyone in the Salaf. So you cannot claim to follow the Salaf and take beliefs of Khalaf at the same time. Do you understand the point I'm making?
Yeah, of course. I understand the point you're making, but I think maybe that's kind of maybe it's a misrepresentation, don't you think?
Misrepresentation of what?
Of the general phenomenon that when, for example, when Salafis would say that they are following the Salaf, the emphasis is that actually everyone follows the Salaf. Like what I'm trying to say is that uh, I'm not sure what you follow, but even you would say that you're following the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Salaf, right? And everyone would like to make that claim. That's so. So that does not take away from it being unique to Salafis, for example. Everybody would claim to follow the Salaf. And then you would see that even the Salafis, for example, as any other group, would make a claim of having a chain that goes from the Khalaf to the Salaf in matters that they want to talk about. Of course, there's a difference now when it comes to in aspects of fiqh. I understand in aspect of fiqh, the Salafis would would go with a different methodology, which is kind of stranding away from the four madahibs. I do agree there is a there is an emphasis on the Salafis that we would go back to the text and do jurisprudence all over again, which I understand is a very a niche Salafi phenomenon. It's not an overarching Salafi phenomenon, and this is why I feel maybe may Allah accept your efforts, but we should never misrepresent someone else. For example. Um, for example, I know many Salafis where I live who would be a Shafi in fiqh. For example, they would teach books of Shafi usul. They would teach books of Shafi fiqh, but then they would claim to be Salafis in aqidah, right? So this broad classification is something that all groups kind of do have. So I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, to be honest, I don't go into issues of Salafis and fiqh. In fact, I've never done that. My issue with Salafis is only on the matters of Aqidah. And I think it's incorrect to say that they have the beliefs going back to Salaf because, again, as for their version of Tawhid, right? Only one in the Salaf, if we go by the definition that Salaf is first 300 years, is Imam Tabari, right? Let's say we grant them that for a minute. They have classifications going back to the Salaf. But that's not the entire problem. The problem for Salafis is that Imam Tabari in his tafsir of Surah 17, Ayat 56, he said that mushriks took lords beside Allah. If they are taking lords beside Allah, they cannot have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. I mean, this is the basis of Salafi takfir on Sunnis, right? If they are saying that if Imam Tabari says mushriks took lords beside Allah, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? They can't. So this, even if they go by Imam Tabari, they try to claim Imam Tabari. Imam Tabari is refuting him in the same hadith. And I mean, forget Imam Tabari for a minute. I'll go to Hazrat ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, right? He's quoted in Tafsir ibn Kathir. I'll soon link the reference here. He's saying that the mushrik took partners in Allah's authority. If they are doing that, how can they have Tawhid and Rububiyyah? So again, there are two major differences between me and the Salafis, and these are the 2 points of conflict: their version of Tawheed and their anthropomorphic tendencies. This is the reason their Tawheed doesn't go back to the Salaf. I'll go to the point about anthropomorphic tendencies later. So, how would you respond to that point?
See, this is what I know, because the topic is a bit more. It requires a bit more research in understanding the issue with the mushrikeen of Mecca, right? The issue the Qurayshis had was not one; they had many issues, and Allah points out at different issues in different ayat of the Quran. Some of them, uh, some of them took partners with Allah. Some of them thought Allah cannot or does not hear their du'as. Some of them said, "Oh no, we only go through these to reach Allah." And some of them would say, "Yes, of course, it is Allah who provides the rain. It's Allah who provides us rizq. It's Allah who's created everything." So, what we understand from the Quran, if you if and this is basically what the Salafi claim would be, is that the mushrikeen of Mecca were of different types, not just one type. Some Salafis, unfortunately, poorly make and I don't think a strong qualified one would do that, but someone maybe who you think is a Salafi or is claiming to be a Salafi sometimes do make a false claim that all the mushrikeen of Mecca had an issue with uluhiyah and not rububiyyah. This is a false claim. So if you study some of the advanced research works that are coming from those that you can call the Salafi circles, you would see that they do appreciate and understand there are different forms of or different levels of shirk that the mushrikeen did. Not always has it been an issue of uh, as you said, only uluhi and they address rububiyah. No, that's not the case. So that's why this mix is definitely going to be there, and Allah calls all of them shirk. It doesn't isolate one from the other. Even for example, in the case of the 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 golden calf that the Israelites they carved or they made out of their hands. Yeah, of course they were sure this is not the creator of the heavens and the earth. They just created it with their own hands, right? But only thing is they they took it as a god, but in the indication that we're going to worship this, not that they thought it's the creator of the heavens and the earth. So you can see that there are glimpses of different types of shirk that is indicated in the Quran. So if one falls in any of these categories, it'll become shirk and something we should avoid. It doesn't please Allah that either we take partners, who we think are equal with Allah, or we say, what, I'm going to go through this because this will get me closer to Allah. And that's one of the forms of shirk the mushrikeen had. So I think you get the clarification I'm making, right? The distinction I'm trying to draw.
Yes, I get the distinction you're trying to make. Again, if there are Salafis who try to claim that who are going to say that mushriks made shirk in rububiyyah, again, great, they can come forward. But every Salafi I have dealt with has said that mushriks have tawheed in rububiyyah, but except for one or two exceptions, because they are now going away from this. But okay, let's go to another point. Yeah, let's go to this point. There are mushrik Arabs who are quoted in the Quran as saying that Allah is the creator, giver, and sustainer, and all of that, right? Because it seemed to me that Salafis try to use that to say that mushriks have some tawheed in rububiyyah, but that's not the case, because again, there's a difference between what I say about tawheed in rububiyyah, what Salafi says, and what the Salaf say. We are all trying to take the Salaf as authority, right? Now, this part basically, the verse they are using, Salafis, these verses, there are numerous of them. They use this to say that mushriks have tawheed in rububiyyah. But if I am bringing references from the Salaf, who are saying basically explicitly that mushriks made shirk in rububiyyah, and I brought one from Ibn Abbas and brought one from Imam Tabari. I can bring more as well. Now the issue, we are not discussing here what Tawheed is correct, what Tawheed isn't, because at the end of the day, I am a layman, you are a layman, right? The authoritative people are the Salaf. So all we are going by, and all my argument against Salafis is based on what the Salaf believed, not what I believe, not what you believe, not what they believe, not what anyone else believes. If you want to take Salaf as authority, which Salafis claim to do, right? Only Salaf, not the Khalaf. Then let's go to what the Salaf was saying. You can respond.
No, I have nothing to respond because this is quite a broad topic now. Because again, as I said, the Quran is indicating that the mushrikeen uh, had issues with rububiyah and uluhiyah, not that not that all the mushrikeen of Mecca were perfect in rububiyah. No, no, nobody makes this claim. At least this is not an academic claim from the Salafi circles. And b- because of a lot of misunderstandings around this area, there are books that have deeply clarified this. Like for example, recently a 2,100 page sharh of Kitab al-Tawheed, with more references, with references from the Salaf and Khalaf, has been made by Sheikh Umeri, which is Sultan Al Umeri, and he's one of the senior scholars from Medina, sorry, from Mecca. And you can clearly see that this would be a common misunderstanding of uh, I don't know now if I should term them as sheikhs or students, but this is a common misunderstanding you will see amongst Salafis who are trying to win a point. They will say, "Oh no, every mushrik in the time of the Quraysh used to have Tawheed and Rububiyyah." No, this is a wrong thing, because some of them did not have Tawheed and Rububiyyah. Some of them actually thought Allah cannot hear you. Now that's an issue of Asma Sifat now, and some of them even had an issue with God itself being Allah itself being the only Lord. Some of them actually believed there are partners with Allah, who share dominion with Him. Some of them did, and some of them did not. So all of these forms are considered shirk, and that is why my first point when I came in was, what are your thoughts on later classifications of ulama, so that the masses understand to distinguish between things that are not explicit in the text, because the purpose of the text, the Quran, for example, is not to be a book of what can I say? The Quran doesn't act like a modern day academic book with index and introduction and then chapter one, chapter. No, Quran is very eloquent. Its primary goal is conveying the message, but at the same time being a challenge to the Meccans in its ijaz, and that's why the hadith corpus is far larger, because the hadith explains the Quran, it complements the Quran, it fulfills the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ's mission was to fulfill the explanation of the Quran, which is very concise, very precise, very eloquent. So that's why I just think, and I'm not here to have a longer debate or any of that sort. I was only here to make one point for you, and again have your thoughts, which is that simply classification by ulama does not indicate that just because this phenomenon was never in the past, it is something weird. As long as you can trace it back to the Quran and Sunnah, it's very acceptable. For example, today we have classifications uh, in the works of, let's say, tafsir, where they have classified. No, and this is not just today. This has been happening for a while, but off late recently it's been catching up, which is classifying surah based on a theme. Like every surah has like a overarching theme, and based on that theme, you can understand the surah in a very what can I say, in a very connected manner, right? This phenomenon has been there in the past, but it's catching ground now, and books are written on this. So this does not mean that because the Salaf never said this, it's not the case. So anyone can see things into the text and start making it, start classifying it, or you could yourself open the Quran and start classifying all the verses that talk about the angels, all the verses that talk about Allah, all the verses that talk about prophets and then list down the articles of faith and say these, then you can't say, oh, nobody in the history has ever done that classification, so this is a new thing. Which you cannot say that. No, it's I feel it's just a misrepresentation of how ulama use, methods of teaching to teach people. So the same goes with Tawheed. You can clearly see
Okay,
in the
I'll address
Quran.
this point.
Sorry.
I'll address these points. These are a lot of points.
No.
Uh,
See, look, I don't need you to address these ones. I'm just the primary point that I want you to, I want to have your thoughts on,
I
and
want to address all these points. If you are making these points, then why shouldn't I address these points? Now,
because the most relevant point which I wanted you to address, which I wish you would, is what are your thoughts on classifications made by later ulama? If you make the claim that they are not done earlier, but if they were made by later, what are your thoughts on this? Because it happens in every field in our Islamic discourse.
okay, now I'll address all these points. Firstly, I did address the point about classification of Tawheed done by Ashari and the later scholars, right? I addressed that point. I didn't dodge it, and I addressed one of the first things it was that I addressed. Secondly, you again the point about making
Could you could
classification.
you could you repeat that? Like, what was your? How did you address it? You accept or you don't accept it?
I said I said a very simple point. I said that later Sunni scholars made it, and intrinsically there is not an issue with it. But the problem for Salafis is they claim to only follow the Salaf, not the Khalaf. Now, there's a very simple thing here. Is the classification of a Tawheed a matter of Aqidah? Yes or no? If it is a matter of Aqidah, they are necessarily not taking Aqidah from the Salaf. If you want now, if you want to claim to follow Salaf, only the Salaf, not the Khalaf, because this is what the Salafis always claim. Not just one or twice, this is their claim always that Salafis claim to follow the Salaf, not the Khalaf. If you are following the Salaf, why are you having a different creed from the Salaf? First point. Secondly, again, you what you are basically assuming here is that you are saying that because a mushrik believes that Allah is the only creator, sustainer, Lord, that means he has Tawheed in Rububiyyah. This is a huge jump. No one in the Salaf made, firstly. Secondly, understand this problem. There is a difference between someone believing something and someone having something. I'll give a very simple example. A Qadiani believes Quran is the word of God. That doesn't mean he has Iman. So you can believe something, right? That doesn't mean you have Iman. Same way, just because someone believes that Allah is the creator, sustainer, Lord, that doesn't mean they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. These are two different concepts. These are not the same concepts. And Salafis can then, if Salafis want to, you know, be accepted for having a classification of Tawheed and these other points, they can simply, this ends their narrative against Asharis and Maturidis. Then they have no narrative against Asharis and Maturidis because the Salafi narrative against Ashari and Maturidi is very simple that they follow the Khalaf, not the Salaf. Yet Salafis are following the Khalaf, not the Salaf. And let's say they want to follow Imam Tabri, right, who's in the Salaf. He said Mushrik took Lord beside Allah. If they are taking Lords beside Allah, they cannot have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. So again, keep this in mind. There's a difference between someone believing something and someone having something. Believing that Allah is the Lord and having Tawheed in Rububiyyah are not the same things. These are two different things. In fact, no one in the Salaf said this. This is the problem for Salafis. Either claim to follow the Salaf and either only follow the Salaf or abandon your narrative against Asharis and Maturidis. You cannot have your cake and eat it. This would be my response.
Okay, so see, I don't think the issue with the Salafis against Asharis or Maturidis is an issue of simply the label of you're following the Khalaf and not the Salaf. It's not a very superficial way claim of that sort. The claim basically is that the things the things that you believe is not what the belief of the earliest generation was. This is what it means. Whether you are, you know. Uh, what can I say? Whether you're classifying or articulating it in that way is a separate topic, which is why I'm seeing that you're having a confusion with the idea of the Tawheed in Rububiyyah. Now let me clarify this once again. When Allah says, in the Quran to the mushrikeen that if they were to be asked who's the Lord who provides them, who sends down rain, who gives them risk, they would say Allah. Over here, the indication is not that these people are people with iman. No, it's never that. It's the fact that they've acknowledged the fact that Allah is the one who provides. This is a fact that you have to learn from it. Even if you don't want to label or stamp it as them having a tawheed, forget the word tawheed here for a moment. It's the fact that they, in this aspect, they don't have an issue. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that they have iman. For example, Iblis has seen Allah. He has full understanding that Allah exists. He's better than the atheist when it comes to the fact that he knows God exists, and he knows Allah exists, and he spoke to Allah, and he believes in Allah. He believes in Allah in which sense? In the fact that he exists, and he knows Allah is his Rabb. He knows all of this. He in fact even called Allah his Rabb. Yet he is the worst and the worst of the worst. We won't say that now he has tawheed in in asma sifat and rububiyyah. We're not going to say this. What we can say is that he has recognized that there's no other Lord, of course, and he has recognized that Allah is the one who, has these aspects of perfection. Where he missed out is that he disobeyed Allah. His mistake was somewhere else. But what we can indicate is that he knew a certain few things. So what do we extract from this? We extract from this is just because you know God, it's not enough. You got to submit to His commands as well. That's the lesson we learn from this. So in the similar way, during the classifications done by the Salafis, the point is just because you are not saying that X Y Z Fulan has the powers of God, or is a God, or is a partner with Allah, that does not exempt you from doing shirk if you direct worship towards this entity, or if you do things that Allah has said is equating to being a mushrik. For example, okay, there can be several examples on this. I'm not going to go there, but the point is not that the mushrikeen were people with iman and they had tawheed. The, it's not.
I have to leave. I'll come back in a second.
So Afzal, still you're still here. I wanted to ask you something, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. If
Uh,
I can answer, inshallah.
Yeah, I wanted to
uh,
ask.
Brother,
Yeah, what's up, bro?
just, just before after I address this point, you can ask your question. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Again, you said in your first statement that it's not about the label Salaf and the Khalaf, it's about following the earlier scholars. But Salaf and the Khalaf and following earlier scholars are Salaf and the earlier scholars are the same thing. So I don't think that point made much sense. But other than that, again, I am not conflating between Tawheed and Iman. I never did that. I am just making a very simple point. There is a difference between someone believing something and having something. These are two distinct points. Like a Qadiani can believe that Quran is word of God. That does not mean he has Iman. I am not saying that Tawheed equals Iman here. I am saying that I'm making a very simple point. Believing something and having something are two different things. Now, if you want to follow the earlier scholars, let's go by their beliefs, right? They didn't classify Tawheed. And if you claim to have the belief that they have the classification of Tawheed and then say that mushriks had one type of Tawheed and not the other, like Ibn Taymiyyah was doing, like the Salafis today do, right? Then don't call yourself followers of the Salaf only. You can't, I mean, think about it. If I say I am following the Salaf, right? Yet I take some Mu'tazili belief. I can't be a follower of Salaf and a Mu'tazila at the same time. This is a very simple point. That's why a Salafi cannot claim to follow the Salaf and take their Aqidah from the Khalaf at the same time. This is the problem for Salafis. Either claim to follow Salaf or don't follow the Salaf. Now, and this is their entire narrative against Asharis and Maturidis, that we don't follow the Salaf. So I mean, they are accusing us of not following the Salaf, yet at the same time, they are taking their Aqidah from the Khalaf. These are two different points. And at the end of the day, on any matter of Tawheed, I don't matter, you don't matter, the Salafi saying this don't matter, the Salafi scholars. We have to go by to the Salaf. because it's not just us taking them randomly the authority. Salafis are claiming to have them as an authority. So let's go to the Salaf. The Salaf is saying that Mushriks made shirk in Rububiyyah, like Imam Tabari said, like Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said. I mean, he is the authority of tafsir, right? And Imam Tabari is the Imam of the Mufassirin. So why wouldn't we go by these authorities of Sunni Islam and go to the later Salafi scholars, like and go to Ibn Taymiyyah? This is not a matter of who has Tawheed or who doesn't. I am a layman, you are a layman, right? Why would our opinions matter? The opinion of the Salaf matters, and they say Mushriks made shirk in Rububiyyah, which is why Salafis are wrong. Uh, now, brother Freddy can make his point, then Afzal, you can respond.
No, for Abdul can respond, no problem. I'll wait.
Afzal, you can respond.
Brother, I think I mean, maybe you're not getting the point I'm making, but let me just put it in a different way. Again, I don't see any issue with classification, and that's why I began with asking, "What's your thoughts?" And you said that's fine, but then you made a
No, but
point that
Abdul, isn't
because
classification bid'ah?
I'm sorry.
Isn't classification. What he's trying to say, to sum it all up, he's trying to say that if you say we are followers of Salaf, right? We follow the Salaf and anything else is innovation and this is shirk and that's bid'ah, then what you should do is stand by what you actually believe in. Now, saying classifications in Tawhid, for example, now there's four, right? I mean, I read that somewhere in the book. Now, isn't that a form of bid'ah and aqidah? And doesn't that
Not really.
contradict the whole concept of being a Salafi because we follow the Salaf?
Yeah, so see, this is the thing, right? The Quran is a book that if you read the Quran, you can start arranging the Quran's topics in different ways. You could from the Quran start extracting fiqh. From the Sunnah, you can extract fiqh. And the Prophet ﷺ did not, for example, begin with Tahara, then go to Salah, and then go on to Siyam, and then the Prophet ﷺ did not teach Islam this way, right? But in the books of fiqh, we have done that, and that's for easy teaching purpose. So pedagogical, systems in which you make things easy for people is something that's always been done from the beginning, and different people do it in different ways. That's why I think this is maybe a point I don't see much weight. I wouldn't call it bid'ah, and I
But
don't think
Afzal,
anyone
wouldn't
calls
you
it
wouldn't
bid'ah.
you say when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't teaching that during the time you're talking about the time of when the revelation wasn't complete yet. After the revelation was complete and the Sahaba were following the methodology, for example, in the reign of uh, Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and the later caliphs, all these things were arranged. It's not like nobody knew what was going on. You're talking about the time when there was no complete revelation.
Okay, I'm not sure of your point, but then if you just basically look at the development of books of fiqh, you would see, and even the books of hadith, how, like Imam Bukhari's book, for example, it's actually a book of fiqh. He's classifying different chapters based on derivation of fiqh rulings. He was not from the four madhhabs. He had his own madhab, but his madhab as a madhab did not progress, right? So what I'm trying to say is, classification is something everyone did. That there's no you can see within Allah's magnificent words and the glorious teachings of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. You can see within them different ways of extracting topics that you can.
Afzal, I think
Uh,
you're mixing up fiqh
I,
with aqidah. We're sticking specifically to
I'll
aqidah.
address this point about fake books. Yeah, just
No, no,
one
brothers,
minute.
brothers. Because there's no point jumping to a fake book. I'm taking that example just to show you something that you can relate with, and just so that I also mention another point. Imam Maturidi himself has classified Tawheed into three,
I'll
and
address these points too.
This is
yeah.
not a
So
problem. There were scholars before
I'll
Ibn
address these
Taymiyyah even who
points.
classified it. Yeah, go
y-
ahead, go ahead.
yeah. So basically, what I'm and this is when Freddie was trying to clarify with me, but the point I'm trying to make is, when you see these classifications being made in Aqidah itself, it's done also by every school in Islamic theology, the ones that you hold on to and the ones you disagree with. Like, for example, attributes of God. the essential attributes, the attributes of action, the attributes.
Brother, you
You
say
know,
that I shouldn't go into fake books, but you always bring up a new topic. So just let me address this point, yeah? The point you made till now.
see, look, I'm here. Honestly, I'm here to deal with to come to an understanding. If we both agree on something, that's fine. But I'm trying to come to an understanding here. So it's not just simply about addressing. With by bringing fiqh, I'm not making any point. I'm showing something that you agree to. That's why
By addressing
my
the
initial
point,
question is still not answered. Okay, I wish you would answer it now. You can answer it, which is there an issue with classification? And if you say there is not an issue with classification, then I would ask you the next question: don't you see that someone like a Qadiani, for example, is easier to bring back to Islam than somebody who's outside the fold of Islam completely, who doesn't even accept the book? A Qadiani, all you have to convince him is that Mirza Ghulam is not a prophet. Khalas, he's a Muslim. He's a complete Muslim because believing in prophethood and the finality of prophethood is one of the pillars, right? It's very easy to bring a Qadiani back. So it goes to show that he believes in everything else, yet he's not a Muslim because of the tenet of requiring to believe that the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is
Brother
the final.
Afzal, you say you don't want to go to another topic. You say you don't. Then you go to another topic. You say that you don't want me to address these points, but unless I address these points, we will not come to an understanding. So let me just address these points now.
I am responding. I'm only addressing points. You brought up the Qadiani. I'm just showing you. I'm okay. Why did you bring the Qadianis? Let's understand this. I want you to explain that. Why did you bring them up? What were you trying to prove with it?
Uh, Brother Afzal, just let me speak for 2 minutes, right? Because you have been speaking for more than 2 minutes. Thank, thank you. Firstly, I brought up the Qadianis to make a very simple point that there's a distinction between having something, believing something. Secondly, the replays are being recorded. I said this twice now. Intrinsically, there is not an issue with division of Tawhid. The problem for Salafis is that they don't follow the Salaf, not the Khalaf. And if they are following the Salaf, they cannot make up things by themselves or take from the Khalaf. Thirdly, the point you made about the fake books. Now, I'm not going into a topic about fake books. I'm making a very simple point. Those fake books were written by people in the Salaf. Imam Shafi is in the Salaf. Those classifications were done by the people in the Salaf, not the Khalaf. And there's a difference between Salaf and Khalaf. You said that people weren't doing it back then, right? But people were doing this thing classification and explaining back then. But those people have authority. There's a difference between a judge sentencing someone to death and a common man killing someone, right? One of them has authority to do this, another person does not have the authority to do that. So the Salaf have authority to do these things. The Khalaf don't. Now, let's go to the point about classification of Tawheed and all of that, right? If you want to take your, because this is a topic of Aqidah. If you are taking Aqidah from the Khalaf, then you cannot claim to only follow the Salaf, right? This is a contradiction. I mean, either follow the Khalaf or the Salaf both, or say only follow the Salaf. If you claim to follow only the Salaf, then take their beliefs. Don't take beliefs of Khalaf. This is cherry picking. Now let's go to Imam Maturidi, who would actually be in the Salaf because he was born in the year 300. Correct? Before the three,
I
actually
I
he
don't
was
I
born in
don't
the.
I don't I don't I don't I don't say even Imam Ahmed is not from the Salaf. By the way, your classification is your classification. Even Imam Ahmed is not from the Salaf. Even Imam Shafi is not from the Salaf. So we're going by very high standards here. I
I'll address these points. I'll address.
only at best Imam Abu Hanifa is from the Salaf, not the rest. Even Imam Malik is doubtful.
Uh, yeah, that's actually the point about classification of who is in the Salaf and who
Imam
isn't.
Shafi'i,
I am going by
Imam
what the Salafis
Imam
claim.
Shafi'i himself would say our Salaf. He himself would say our Salaf in his works, Imam Shafi'i. So again,
I'll address this point.
no. See,
I'll address this point.
look.
No, Abdul, look,
You can
we should
address
time this. I
you
think we
can
should time this.
you can address it. No problem. I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to debate. You can time it. You
No,
can do
I'll
whatever you
address
want.
these points.
But none of your points are
I'll address
going.
these points.
None of your points are addressing the one thing that I'm constantly asking from the beginning. that
Yeah,
that and one thing, you're constantly making a claim which you cannot prove in seconds. You're saying that none of the Salaf believed in this, in the understanding of the Meccans to have believed in a Lord, in a supreme Lord.
yeah,
You are
brother
you are
Abdul,
you're
we
taking
can time this now because seriously, you're taking way too much time. If you want, we can time this. Otherwise, just let me speak. Thank you. Now, firstly, the point about the classification of Tawheed, if it is something wrong. Again, check the replays. I've answered this 3 times. Classification of Tawheed in and of themselves have no issue. How can I say this more clearly? I've said this 3 times now. This is the fourth time I'm saying this. The problem for Salafis is a very simple problem.
No, that problem is no, no. One second. You, you, that problem which you keep saying is incorrect. You cannot
How
substantiate
is
that.
it incorrect?
Yeah, that's what you are making a claim that the Salafis in what they believe. You
Afzal,
cannot.
look, I didn't interrupt you, right? I didn't interrupt you for a long, long time.
But
So
this
don't
is about
interrupt me.
this is about coming to the truth, not about interruption. I want you to answer me, which you're
So
which.
I shouldn't interrupt you, yet you should interrupt me.
Look, I am the one who came.
Seriously,
I'm the one who came with clarification. I am the student. You're the teacher. So the student can interrupt to for clarifications.
I am
You
not a teacher. I don't claim to be a teacher. We are both on equal terms, right?
between
So if
between
you can clarify, you can interrupt. Why can't I clarify and why can't I interrupt?
you see, between you and me, I came here with a question, an inquiry,
Okay.
and when I get
In
your
any
answer,
case,
when I
just
got your
because you
answer,
came with a question, that doesn't mean I am the teacher here. We are both on equal terms, right?
no, no. Right
So
now, I'm getting clarification from your dars. The fact that you're teaching it
yeah,
doesn't mean I should
I'm just
agree.
getting bored of this. Now, I actually answered the question 4 times. I'll answer a fifth time. Intrinsically, there is no issue with division of the heath. The simple problem for the Salafis is that no one in the Salaf did this. Now he brought a fiqh books, and I made a very simple point. Those fiqh books were written by the Salaf, right? So the person with authority in Sunni Islam is the Salaf. Either take them as authority or don't take them as authority. You cannot have your cake and eat it both at the same time. Now, I was getting tired of the constant interruptions, which is why I moved him back to the audience. If you want to come back and we'll do this 2 minutes each. Afzal, do you want to come back? But other than that, I won't let you speak for hours.
Inshallah, yani, whether you're recording this or not, it is recorded in the books of Allah. So no problem. Look, the point is this. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but your claim again
I'm
is in.
starting the 2 minutes.
Sure, sure. Your claim that the Salafis claim to follow the Salaf, but they are not following the Salaf is a wrong claim. The aspects of Tawheed, specifically not mentioned that way, but addressing those points is already done in the early books. Right now, when I say Salaf, I'm being even more stricter. Imam At-Tabari, Imam Ahmed, Imam Shafi, all of them wouldn't come within the Salaf. If you see works even before that, statements of the earliest generations, which Imam At-Tabari would quote from. So not Imam Tabari himself, he would quote early students of the Sahaba, for example. In those works, you will see that they are addressing that the Quraysh believed that Allah is the only Lord, which is an indication that they knew that Allah is the only Lord. Yet they were called mushrikeen for a reason. Now, from this, we extract the fact that they did not have an issue in knowing Allah is the only Rabb. We wouldn't say
But
this
Afzal,
means they have iman.
but Afzal, I think you're incorrect about this. Have you read the
Brother
hadith
Fadli, let him
regarding this
speak.
matter?
Let him have his 2 minutes. Let him have his 2 minutes.
No, I'm
And
just
say, look,
yeah.
I'm here to make a claim. In order to substantiate that, I know it'll take a lot more time. We have to start bringing a lot of quotes, a lot of references, and then show. But the only claim I'm making is opposite to what Brother Muhammad is making. He agreed classification not issue. Great, fine. I leave that point aside. But then he goes to say the Salafis claim to be Salaf, but they follow the Khalaf. This is a wrong understanding, because if you see the quotations that are recorded in Ibn Kathir or Tabari or any of the tafsir books that goes back to students of Ibn Abbas, for example, you would still see that in ayat which talk about Rububiyyah exclusively, they show and indicate that the Meccans believe that God, Allah is the only Rabb. Some of them believe this. This is just to show that they believed in the fact that Allah is only Rabb. Now, for you to simply put a sticker on that and say, "Oh, this means they had Tawhid and Rububiyyah," and what kind of a messed up understanding this is of Salaf? This is you misunderstanding the whole pedagogical system of the Salafi. That's all I'm trying to say.
Your 2 minutes are up. Now I'll start my 2 minutes. Okay. Firstly, the point about again following the Salaf and the Khalaf, he's saying basically I am wrong. That the Salaf had beliefs that Muslims had some Tawheed and Rububiyyah. Again,
I didn't say that.
understand this point.
I didn't say that.
So,
This is
Afzal, I
this is
didn't
the
interrupt you,
no
right?
no
I
because
didn't interrupt you.
look.
I
I didn't
didn't
say
interrupt
that.
you, right?
I didn't. You are speaking about me. I didn't say that. You should look, Muhammad.
You
Yeah,
were
Akhi,
saying
Muhammad,
this.
brother. I didn't say what you.
Yeah. Again, I gave him his 2 minutes. I didn't interrupt him. Right now, I'll address this point. He was saying that basically Salaf says that they had some form of Tawheed or all of that. He was implying it by saying that they believe Allah is the only Lord. Right? Now, I'd address this point very simply. There's a difference between believing something and having something. A Qadiani can believe that Quran is the speech of Allah. That doesn't mean he has Iman. I'm not saying Tawheed and Iman are same thing. I am saying a very simple point. There's a difference between having something and believing something. Now, if the Qadiani doesn't have Iman while believing this, uh, uh, then that's clear. That's clear cut that those both of them are different things. Now, he said that the Salaf have this belief that I am wrong, that I am not bringing references. Yeah, and he mentioned Imam Ibn Kathir. Look, the thread I linked most recently. It has Imam Ibn Abbas saying that Mushrik took partners in Allah's authority. If they are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? I mean, Tawheed is oneness, right? Oneness in Lordship. If you have two, then that's not one. That's not Tawheed. You don't need to take my word for it. Check the reference I linked. It has Tafsir Ibn Kathir quoting Imam Ibn Abbas. Imam, my 2 minutes are up if he wants to come back. Actually, he took some of my time, so I'll just finish this point. He mentioned Imam Ibn Kathir. Imam Ibn Kathir himself in that thread says that Mushrik took lords beside Allah. If they are taking lords beside Allah, how can they have Tawheed? Two cannot mean Tawheed, right? Oneness is Tawheed. Two cannot mean Tawheed. And Imam Tabri says the same thing explicitly. Mushriks took Lord beside Allah. If they are taking lords beside Allah, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? Address this point, Afzal. You have 2 minutes. I send you an invite. I'll make Freddy a moderator and he'll invite you up. Uh, Brother Freddy, invite him up because I can't for some reason.
Okay, I think instead of 2 minutes, can you keep your mic open and I ask you some things and you clarify it? Because I don't want to do this 2 minutes because I'm not here to win points or because I don't see us making progress. Can you keep the mic open and I ask you a few clarifications so we can get somewhere?
Yeah, but if I'm going to clarify, I will just don't answer in a yes or no. I'll explain
Sure,
the point for you.
sure. But can you make it brief so that my I don't lose my train of thought? Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, um, so the okay. So my first point I want to know from you is, do you accept, and you can explain, of course, do you accept that the Meccan Quraysh had different levels of shirk? Some of them had issues with making partners with Allah, and some of them actually believed that Allah is the one who provides. and not their idols, Allah's soul alone. Do you hold to this position?
I don't think they had different levels of shirk. I think that's all of them were mushriks. If they were pagans, right, they were all mushriks. That would be my position.
Okay, so do you see a difference between, let's say, a Qadiani, okay, and which means his primary issue is that he believes in the Prophet after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and do you see a difference between him and, let's say, uh, someone who someone who claims to be a Muslim, but he goes and starts praying to, let's say, Imam Hussein? Do you see a difference between the two?
Uh, Both of them are kuffar. If the intention of that person praying to Imam Hussain is not that Allah is the source creator, again, istighasa is a matter of intention more than anything. So, if they are praying like Imam Hussain has independent power, then both of them are mushriks. They don't have any tawheed whatsoever. That would be my response.
Yeah, but then both are falling into kufr because of different reasons,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay, so this is what I'm trying to understand. In the same way, the mushrikeen of Mecca fell into shirk because of different reasons. Do you see that?
yes, they had different reasons.
Okay, do you accept that one of the reasons is that some of them used intermediaries to reach Allah, and some of them actually believe there are partners with Allah?
Uh, I'm pretty sure both of them are correct.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, do you believe with the statement I'm making that some of them believed
Yes,
that?
I agree with this.
Okay, then this is the point I was trying to come to from the beginning, which is that there's a difference between the one who believes that the one who committed shirk by you know choosing these idols who they knew were powerless, but they used it as a medium. These people are different in this in what led them to become mushrik from the ones who thought Allah is not all powerful and he required assistance from his daughters and so on and so forth. So you do see that these are two different types of issues that led them to shirk.
Uh, There are different types of issues, but that doesn't mean any of them had any tawheed whatsoever. There's a
Excellent.
difference between,
Excellent,
yes,
excellent, fine, excellent. So far, good. This is basically what, for pedagogical reasons, is being classified as the different tawheeds. It does not mean that their tawheed is accepted. You got to know the difference between one who simply believes in all the tenets of Islam and messed up with one, thereby he's outside of Islam, for example, the Qadiani, and in the same case as this mushrikeen, that they had clarity with the fact that Allah is the only Lord, but yet they were called mushrik because they chose intermediaries to reach Allah. So I'm trying to show that. Yeah,
the problem with that is the Salafi belief is not that they are saying mushriks had tawheed in rububiyyah, but this belief that they are classifying as Tawheed in Rububiyyah and all of that is simply false. You don't need to take my word for it, take Imam Tabari's word for it. He said Mushriks took Lord beside Allah. Imam Ibn Kathir in his tafsir says the same thing. I have referenced this, but more than both of them, Imam Azad Abdullah ibn Abbas anhuma said that Mushrik took partners in Allah's authority. That's the shirk in Rububiyyah. That is precisely shirk in Rububiyyah. So
agreed,
we can take, yeah.
agreed. But
Okay, so if they are doing shirk in Rububiyyah,
but but you but
they don't have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. You can't have shirk in Rububiyyah and
oh no,
Tawheed in Rububiyyah at the same time.
forget the label for now. I'm just look. See, I can see you're clearly stuck with the pedagogical label, without realizing what the Salafi is doing. This is where I'm trying to make the clarification that these labels are
Does that
only.
label have a meaning? Does that label have a meaning?
That label has a pedagogical meaning. What that means is that you can simply say, okay, is it right to say that a Qadiani has iman in Allah?
No,
Why not?
because he's a kafir.
No, no. See, look. Does he believe in Allah? Does he believe? If you ask him, do you believe in Allah? Will he say yes or no?
Again, there's a problem with this point. You are assuming that just because someone says they believe something, that doesn't mean that means they have something.
Yeah,
This was
because
the point I was trying to
belief,
clarify with the
belief
Qadiani
comes
example.
belief comes from
Believing
knowledge.
something and having something are two different things.
No, no, wait. B- Belief comes from knowledge. If you have the knowledge, that's the first step to believing something.
Knowledge doesn't equal iman. Knowledge
It
doesn't
does.
equal
It does.
tawheed.
It does.
Those are different things.
Agree. See, look. We are agreeing now. I'm agreeing with these points, but you're missing. You're missing the key word, pedagogy. Pedagogy means how do you teach something to people, right? When you teach people something, you can only give them what is apparent. That is knowledge. You cannot give them iman. I can never give iman in a class. I can only give knowledge. When I give knowledge, I can ask the Qadiani, do you believe this about Allah, this about Allah, this about Allah, this about Allah, this about Allah? Do you know all of these? Do you accept these as true? He will say yes. Then I'll say, do you believe there's a prophet after Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? He say yes. I'll say, this is your problem. Everything else you know is right, my brother. Just leave this from your system and start believing in it. Know this
Why would
and
I leave it? There is nothing wrong with it. Again, the problem for you is you are assuming that Tawheed in Rububiyyah is just teaching thing. It has no real value or meaning. But that's not the Salafi position.
this is the
They are
Salafi
saying that
position. This is the,
no, this is and the Salafi position is that Mushriks had Tawheed in Rububiyyah. They believe that there are three types of Tawheed. Mushriks had complete Tawheed in Rububiyyah. That's the Salafi position.
yeah.
And that's just
See,
false
that
according
is
to
not
the
a
Salaf.
that is not a tawheed for which they are getting rewarded. Just like just like just like the belief in Allah that the Qadiani has is not getting rewarded for it. The mushrikeen who believed in Allah as the only
So
creator
they have
will not get.
Tawheed. Even if they are not getting rewarded for it, they have Tawheed according to you. Tawheed in Rububiyyah. They are
Yeah,
not
see,
getting rewarded for it.
what does Tawheed then mean? So then we have to go back to what does Tawheed mean? Tawheed simply means you're isolating and putting Allah
So you
unique.
are saying they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. Again, you are conflating between knowledge and having Tawheed. Having something and believing something are two completely different things. And you agree with this point. If they
See,
believe that Allah is the only Lord, that doesn't mean they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah, which is the Salafi claim. It's not just pedagogy like you are trying to misrepresent. This is the Salafi belief. They have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. But the fact is, according to Salaf, you don't need to take my word for it.
okay,
Imam Tabari
wait.
and Imam Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas
Fine,
both say
fine.
they
No, no.
mentioned Rububiyyah.
Akhi, fine. Let me ask you again then. Does this Tawheed and Rububiyyah for the as the Salafi as you are okay? Let me go with you. The Salafis claim that the Mushrikeen had Tawheed and Rububiyyah. Are they getting rewarded for this?
That's irrelevant.
No, no, I'm not.
That's
This
irrelevant.
is
No, that's irrelevant.
if you
The
don't
Salafi
see
claim that
what is the
they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah is a false claim.
no.
It's simply false.
Yeah. Let's agree. I'll agree with you. For the sake of discussion, I'll agree with you in your way of understanding that it's a false claim. But my question is that for someone to believe. Okay, now if I go and ask a Qadiani, do you believe Allah is the only Lord? Will he say yes or no?
Again, you are conflating between someone believing something and them having something.
Because
Just because they
because
believe
knowing
Allah is the only Lord, that doesn't mean they have Tawheed and Rububiyyah. These are two different points.
you're equating not equating, you are thinking that when if someone has a right belief in some aspect of Islam, okay, it is not considered that he has this right aspect. This is how you're thinking, and this is not a pedagogical way. You cannot get into the hearts of people. This is why when you teach people, you gotta classify things. With the Qadiani, as I said
We
earlier,
can waste time on this topic, but I'll ask a very simple question. Who in the Salaf said this? Who
who
in
in
the
the
Salaf said that they have some form of Tawheed or Iman?
okay,
Why waste time on everything
I
else?
didn't say
Who in
Iman.
the Salaf said that?
I'm not saying
Okay, you didn't say
I'm not
Iman.
the word
You said
Iman.
Tawheed.
Yes.
You said
So
Tawheed. You didn't say
y-
Iman. Who in the
yeah,
Salaf said this?
yeah, okay, okay. The way the word tawhid is used here is in isolating the concept. Okay, now if you look at in the books of tafsir and the ayat which refer to the Quraysh accepting that it's Allah who provides, it's Allah who created, the commentary
That
from there.
doesn't equal them having Tawheed. That's your jump.
Look,
Because let's say,
look,
because I'll give a very
this
simple
word,
reason.
yeah, but
I'll give you a very simple reason for that. Those kind of statements that they believe Allah is the Lord or they believe Allah is the creator or other things, they can be attributed to Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas. He said those things. Yet he also said they took partners in Allah's authority.
Yeah, those are other
So those
mushrikeen, not the
statements
same
don't
ones.
equal. Yeah.
You agreed earlier with me that there are that there were that there are two types of mushrikeen in Mecca, not just one. You agreed with me earlier.
There are not just two types, there are many types, but none of them
Many
had Tawheed. When
primarily
Hazrat
that would,
Abdullah ibn Abbas is talking about them taking partners in Allah's authority, he's not just saying there are a specific group of them, he's describing all of them.
not
They are
really,
taking partners
not
in
really.
Allah's
This is this
authority.
is this is your mistake. This is now your a mistake which you cannot substantiate. That all of them.
It's not a mistake.
Okay,
It's not a
okay,
mistake.
okay. Then this is where I will start to disagree with you on the idea that you are misrepresenting the understanding of the Salaf, the Ibn Abbas, the companions, his students.
How am I misrepresenting
You,
him? I
it's
am
very
bringing his reference. Salafis are clearly lying about him. Just read the reference. You don't need to take my word for it.
no. It's
Imam
okay.
Hazrat Abdullah ibn
I
Abbas said,
Yeah,
Mushriks took partners in Allah's authority. Is
all of them,
a clearly part of Rububiyyah.
did he say all and exclusively all of them? He didn't say that.
Uh, he's saying pagans, he's saying the mushriks, so he's
Yeah.
speaking about all of them, unless he classifies that there is a particular group only.
No, it's not like they are what do you say, demarcating and putting a list down that these many people had belief, this many people had did not have belief.
No,
Allah
he's
has
talking about the
Allah,
entirety, not just a particular
no, it
group of
doesn't matter.
people.
It doesn't matter. Even if it's majority, even if three people are there, even if
He
three
is
people,
talking about entirety, not even three people are there. These are not the Salafi beliefs. No.
this you
Now
cannot
you are
claim.
just bringing your own
This,
beliefs.
this you
You are
cannot
not
claim.
bringing the Salafi
No,
beliefs.
no, no,
You are
brother.
bringing the Sunni beliefs. You are not even bringing the Salafi beliefs. Now you are just bringing your own positions.
No, this is because you haven't. This is why. This is why I came in the first place, because I'm seeing you misrepresent a group, and on the day of judgment, Allah will ask you. So you're a young
Allah
brother.
will ask both of us.
May
I
Allah
am not
accept.
misrepresenting anyone. I brought again Imam Ibn Kathir is an authority according to the
You're,
Salafis, right?
you told me you're a
He is
layman.
using Ibn
No,
Abbas's
no,
statement that
okay, brother,
Muslims
brother.
took power partners in Allah's authority.
I
If they are
agree with.
taking
I
partners
agree
in
with that
Allah's
statement.
authority,
I'm agreeing with that statement you're making. I'm agreeing with the quotation you're bringing, but you're misrepresenting what the quotation means. This is the problem, right? You are
no, I'm not.
you.
If they are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed and Rububiyyah?
So that so
Tawheed
you
cannot mean two. If Allah is the only Lord, He cannot have partners in His authority. Yes,
then
yet
what?
Muslims
Then
are
how do you
taking
explain the?
partners in Allah's authority.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. If you say that all the mushrikeen took partners with Allah, okay, in Allah's authority, then how do you understand the many verses in the Quran where Allah says, if you ask them, the ayah says, لا يقولون الله, لا يقولون, with a lamb of tawqid and a double noon in the end, indicates they will say surely and only Allah. This is what the ayah means. So you got to explain, how does
I'll
this
tell you how I
ayah?
understand these verses.
Sorry.
I'll tell you how I understand these verses. I'll tell you how I
No,
understand
no,
those ayat.
understand my question first. My question is, if you are saying all of them took partners with Allah, then how is Allah Himself affirming that they would say it is only Allah who is their Lord? How do you understand this?
Okay, I'll tell you how I understand this. There are difference between someone saying something, they believe something, or someone even believing something, and them having Tawheed. Having and believing are two different things, like the Qadiani example states. Like the Qadiani example I brought up, they can believe that Allah is the only Lord, right? That doesn't mean they have Tawheed. I mean, they can still take partners with Allah that according to them,
Now
Allah
you're contradicting yourself.
agrees to.
Now you're
How am I
contradicting.
contradicting myself?
I'll tell you, because earlier you told me Ibn Abbas, according to you, says all the mushrikeen took partners with Allah, and that goes against the ayat, the clear ayat of the Quran, not one, many ayat. And I'm trying to ask you, and you got to explain this. If you hold to the position that Ibn
It's not
Abbas
a
said,
contradiction. It's not a contradiction. Ibn Abbas read those ayat.
okay, which
Then he
one do
said
you,
Muslims is
which
partners
ayah,
in Allah. I
which
think
ayah?
it's 1617, 1671 or 1684.
Can you
It's
quote
in
it?
the reference.
Can you quote it
Uh,
or translate it?
just wait a minute.
See, the only contradiction I'm claiming that you're making is, if you're saying Ibn Abbas said that all of them took partners with Allah, then what about the ayat in which Allah is saying that they would say it's only Allah who's their Lord? Then where's the partner?
Okay, I'll address that very simply. Just because someone said they believe something or do something, right? That doesn't mean they are actually doing something. I mean, this is such a
So
stupid
Allah is
claim.
lying.
Think about it. A Christian
No,
says they are on the truth.
no, wait. Allah,
Does
Allah,
that
Allah,
does that mean
Allah.
they are on the truth?
No, no, no,
No,
no, no.
you are saying
This will,
that
this will render the
this is a
Quran's
very simple
argument
point
poor.
of view.
No, no. Hang on, hang on. So you're saying that Allah is
This is
quoting the
a very
mushrikeen
simple
lie?
point. Just because someone says they are on something, that doesn't mean they are actually on something.
Okay,
You are
okay,
saying
got
that
it. I got
because
it. I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. So my question then is, according to you, Allah is quoting the mushrikeen, but He's quoting their lies, right? Because just because they say it doesn't mean they believe what they say. You're basically saying that Allah is quoting the lies of the mushrikeen.
not necessarily. Let me address why.
No,
Someone can believe
am I
something.
correct in your understanding? Am I correct in your understanding?
No, no, I'll correct you. Why
Hmm.
you are wrong? I'll give a very simple reason.
But you understood what I asked you.
A Christian believes that they are on the truth. A believing Christian, right? When he says I am on the truth, he's not lying, but he's simply wrong. Did you get that point? There's a difference between someone being wrong and someone lying, unless
Yeah.
you're going to claim they're the same
Okay.
things.
So were they wrong? Were they wrong when they say only Allah is the Lord? Were they wrong or they lied? Which one
Yes,
is it?
they were wrong.
They were wrong.
Some were wrong, some were
Wait,
lying.
wait, hang on. Allah is saying in the Quran that if you ask the mushrikeen, who's the creator of the heavens and the earth, who sends down rain, who provides you risk, and the mushrikeen respond, only and only Allah. You're saying they're wrong or they're lying? Which one is it? If they're wrong, it cannot be. That's a false statement because they're right. Then, is it?
No,
Are they wrong
again,
or
you
they
are
lying?
misrepresenting my position. You are misrepresenting my position. They are
I'm not.
saying they
I'm asking
believe.
you.
But I'll
I'm
tell
not
you how
presenting.
you're misrepresenting me. I'll tell you how you're misrepresenting me. I am not saying they are wrong that Allah is the creator and sustainer. Allah is the creator and the sustainer. The
So they're
problem
right.
where you are saying is, I'll address this point. Let me address this point. Where you are wrong is saying that they believe Allah is the Lord and creator. Just because that equates them having Tawheed. These are different
No, no.
things.
Forget,
Again,
forget all these points.
why should
Let's
I
just
forget? Again, let's stick to the topic.
we'll go step by step because see, look, you
Yeah,
jumping.
we are going step by step.
No,
We
no,
are
no,
going
no.
step by step.
Let's go one step at a
Afghani
time.
says they believe in Islam, right? Does that mean
Let's go to this. Let's go to this
let's
ayah because
report Qadiani?
I can see
I'll
a
give you a
mistake
very
here.
simple example. I'll give you a very simple example. A Qadiani says Islam is the truth. A Qadiani says he believes Islam is the truth. Yeah, does that mean he has iman or tawheed? No, having and believing are different things.
That's fine,
They're
but
always two different things.
this example is not relevant here because when
It
Allah,
is relevant. It
no,
is
no, no,
relevant
no,
because
wait,
I'll tell you
brother.
why.
No, brother,
I'll tell
you
you a very
understand.
simple reason why
You
it's
understand
relevant.
my question. You understand my question again.
Yes, I
When Allah,
understand it, and I'll tell you why it's relevant. Because Qadiani says he believes this, right? He believes Islam is the truth. But that doesn't mean he has Tawheed. There are different between believing
that's
something and
okay.
having something.
We'll come to that next. Let's take one step. First step, we'll go to what they believe and what they know. Let's go to that, and then we'll go to whether they have tawhid or not. The first step is the mushrikeen of Mecca when they say only and only Allah is the Lord. Were they lying or were they mistaken?
I think you are making a major problem here. I'll give you a very simple reason why. Qadiani can say he believes this, right?
Forget
That
Qadiani.
doesn't mean he actually believes this.
This is the
No,
clear ayah from
that's
the
the only
Quran.
relevant point here. Why would I switch topics here?
Be-
That
because
is the relevant point. The
Because Allah
similarity is between
Allah did
the
not actually
Qadianis
look.
and the Muslims here.
The Qadiani example will make sense if the ayah in the Quran was Allah asked to the mushrikeen, do you believe in the truth? And they said yes. This would make sense with your Qadiani example. But no, if you ask the Qadiani, is there a prophet after Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And they said no, then this example would be similar to what the Quran is making with the Quraysh. But this is not what the
I'll
Qadiani
tell
would
you why
say.
it makes sense. I'll tell you why the
Did you?
Qadiani example makes sense.
No, brother.
I'll tell you a
Did you?
very simple reason.
I'm
No,
sure
no,
the
no,
audience
brother
are
Afzal.
also understanding now. Look, with the Qadiani, if I ask a Qadiani, is there a prophet after Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Will he say yes or no?
I'll tell you why it makes
No,
sense. We are not
will he
debating
say
whether. I'll tell
no,
you again.
no,
Let
no.
me tell you why it makes sense.
If you
No,
don't,
no,
if you
no, no,
don't,
no, Afzal. Let me tell you why it makes sense, right?
I think we should
If
go
we
to
were
private room,
debating,
you and
no,
me.
no,
I
no,
think you and me should go private because this public thing doesn't work when people are discussing. Sometimes our egos clash and shaitan comes in. If you wish to speak with me, inshallah, and I wish to speak with you, let's go private. Forget the audiences.
no, not forget the audience. Let's
Why?
speak about this point.
No,
I'll
no.
tell you
Let's
why. Why?
just me. No, just me and you.
Because
Come on. It's more private. It's our sincerity will be good. Ikhlas will be good. We won't do it because
I
public
am
is
already
seeing.
sincere. I don't think
Wallahi,
you are being sincere.
Wallahi,
I'll give you a
wallahi,
very simple reason why.
wallahi, I tell you, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh doubted his sincerity, and let alone us. So let's be careful. Let's be careful, brother. Right? The Sahaba doubted their sincerity. Umar was on doubt on his deathbed. Right? So let's be careful. Okay? I, I sincerely wish we both can go private.
Were they doubt? Were, were they in doubt about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a prophet
They were doubt in their
or
iman.
Allah existing?
They had doubt of their own sincerity. They were afraid. Abu Bakr said, if Allah said only one person was to enter Jahannam, he would have thought it's me. Now listen, brother. Wait,
Did
let's
Abu
not go to
Bakr radiallahu anhu have the correct beliefs upon his deathbed? Did he have the correct beliefs?
brother. Let's not digress. You
No,
said I'm
no, let's
sincere.
go there.
I don't think we should
Why
make
are you
such claim.
delaying the topic? Did he have correct beliefs? Did he have correct beliefs?
Brother, are you sincere?
Yes, did he have correct beliefs?
You cannot say that, brother. This we don't know this.
Did Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma have correct beliefs on their deathbed?
Yes, of course they did. Now, Akhi, if you,
Yeah.
let's go.
So, so they had the correct beliefs. So people can, Muslims can have can be correct about them having correct beliefs, right? They can know they have correct beliefs. So I know I have correct beliefs. So you
No,
cannot bring up Abu Bakr and Umar
that's
radiallahu
not.
anhuma as examples against
I'm
me.
not talking about. I'm not talking about belief. I'm talking about sincerity. It's something else.
We are talking about beliefs here, right?
Sincere. No, I said
That's
let's
the
go.
entire topic.
I said, brother. If you don't listen, you will not understand. I said, let's go private so that
Well, I would be more inclined to understanding if you were actually answering my points, right? You
Okay.
spend let's go to the point why the Qadiani example is relevant in these ayat,
But
because
this.
that's what the topic we
Okay.
were discussing.
Okay. Go ahead. Go
Let's
ahead.
go to the topic.
This is the last. This is the
This
last
ayat
discussion I'm going to
mentioned.
have.
Okay, let me finish the point.
Sure.
Why the Qadiani example is relevant? There's a very simple reason for that point. Because we are not discussing whether the mushriks kuffar said that or even knew that Allah is the Lord or not. We are discussing whether they have Tawhid or not. Now, this ayat doesn't mention them saying we believe or other things, but that is what we are trying to derive from this ayat. If we are trying to derive that from this particular ayat, then that point is relevant. Then the Qadiani example is relevant. Address this point.
No, no. The example is not. You cannot equate the two examples. If you ask a Qadiani what you believe is the truth, and he says yes, his yes is pointless. It doesn't have any value because he's mistaken in his belief. But if you ask a Qadiani, is there a prophet? Do you think there's a prophet after Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam? And he says yes, or he says no, then those are two factual statements he's trying to make for himself. If he goes to say that there is no prophet after the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, then we would ask him, then why do you call upon Qadiani? I'm sorry, why do you consider Qadiani as a Mirza Ghulam as a prophet? The same way Allah is asking the mushrikeen. If you would ask them, who is the one who sends rain and who is the one who provides, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, they would say only and only Allah is what Allah is talking about them. What is Allah doing here? Is
No,
he
no, that's his point. Because
wait
I can't have it
wait,
going on for
wait,
hours. Because
wait
you go really long.
Lala, listen, brother. My question is this. You can address this question. Is Allah talking about what the mushrikeen believe when they say yes, yes, and only Allah? Is Allah is are they? speaking the truth or no?
I'll address this point now. Uh,
No, see, let's go with a yes or no, and then you address it.
why I'll address this point now. I did mute myself, right? So now mute yourself when I'm speaking.
Look, brother, we are going in circles. Wallahi, I don't have time for now. Now I've lost time. I thought we would make some progress, but you're going. This is the crux of the question. Why did the
Unless you
mushrikeen?
address my points, we won't make progress.
I have
You
heard your
keep
points, and
getting
you're
my
going in
points again and
circles.
again.
This is why I'm saying
We
let's go
are not going
private.
in circles. We are at the same place we were always starting. You just never bothered to address any of my points. Yeah?
See, I'm
Now,
not here to
let's
debate.
go to the point
To
about
look.
Qadiani
This is
temple, why that's relevant. You are trying to derive from that ayat that the
forget what I'm
mushriks
trying
have
to
some sort of
forget
tawheed
what I'm trying to
rububiyya.
derive. Why are you jumping the gun?
Yes, you
Forget
are
what
trying to derive.
I'm. No. Look,
But why
think,
should I forget it? Then,
think. No,
Afzal,
no.
if I forget all your points and then should I forget all your points and then accept them blindly?
Yeah, no.
Why should I forget these points?
I am dropping all my beliefs. I'm a fresh new guy. I want to drop all my beliefs. I have no. I don't have any beliefs of the Salafi. Nothing. I'm going to drop all my points. I'm a fresh new guy who's trying to understand this issue. Talk to me like that. If you have this preconceived notion about me, you're going to try to only attack my points and not the question I'm asking.
Sad thing is, you are not coming at this from an open perspective, right? An open, completely fresh perspective. The problem with that is, but if you want to go like that, let's go like that. The verse you are bringing, right? The all the ayat where the Muslims are saying they believe Allah is the Lord, right? That doesn't mean they have Tawheed Rububiyyah.
That's
You
okay.
are
No.
trying
See,
to
look.
derive this
You're
point.
jumping the gun.
No,
I'm
no, no,
telling you.
no. Afzal, this is the
We,
only relevant point here. We are
no,
discussing whether Muslims have Tawheed in Rububiyyah or not. This is the difference between Salafis and Sunnis. This is the major difference. Did Muslims have Tawheed in Rububiyyah or not? This is a very simple point. You are saying that this ayat, from this ayat, we can conclude that Muslims have Tawheed in Rububiyyah. Yet, this ayat doesn't say that. In fact, the Salaf say the opposite of that.
which I
Read
disagree
what the
with you.
Salaf are actually saying. Wait a
No,
minute.
I disagree with you.
Afzal,
I disagree with you on this.
you can disagree. But the point is,
The
what I
Salaf don't
say
say this.
is irrelevant. What you say is utterly irrelevant. Both of our opinions are equally worthless. What matters is what the Salaf say.
Yeah, I'm
So
saying the
let's
Salaf
go
don't
to
say
what
this.
the
The
Salaf
Salaf
say.
don't say this, brother. You don't look. The Salaf
Yes,
don't
they
say
say
this.
that. Wait a minute. Is Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas in the Salaf?
You
Yes,
can't.
we both
Yes,
agree
of
on
course.
this.
Yes, of course.
What
You can't.
he says that Mushriks took partners in Allah's authority. He says this. Imam ibn Kathir quotes this in his tafsir. If they are
I
taking
know.
partners with
I'm not
authority,
disagreeing with you.
they
I'm not
can't have
disagreeing.
Tawheed in Rububiyyah.
I'm not disagreeing with you, brother. I'm not disagreeing with you. But look. You are always choosing the point I'm agreeing with you on, and then bypassing the point that you don't agree with me on. Why
That's
are you
what you
doing?
do.
No,
That's what you keep doing from
I am
that
agreeing
way.
with you. I've been agreeing
You
with you with
no,
this.
you are you agreeing that Muslims had shirk in Rububiyyah? They didn't have Tawheed in Rububiyyah.
I'm
Are you
agreeing that
agreeing with this point?
I'm agreeing that the mushrikeen were of different types, and you
So you're
agreed
not
as well.
agreeing with me. So you're not agreeing with me. Why are you claiming to agree with
You
me?
agreed with me. You agreed with me. Didn't you agree earlier that some mushrikeen fell into shirk because of X, and some fell into shirk because of Y? Didn't you agree this earlier?
Yes, they had different views, but none of them had Tawheed in
Exactly.
Rububiyyah.
Forget the label Tawheed and Ruby because you're not
No,
understanding that
I'm
label.
not forgetting the label. The label has a meaning, and you are trying to ignore the label yet keep the meaning in the place. Why would I
No,
do that?
I will first.
Why? Where did
I will
Muslims have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? Again, why waste
see.
time on my opinions and your opinions, right? You agree your opinion is irrelevant. I agree my opinion is irrelevant. Our opinions don't matter. Our feelings don't matter.
I'm
What
not talking
matters
about
is
my
what the
opinion or your opinion. I'm talking about what who we are representing.
no.
We both know this. This is
Yes,
not
we
between
both
you.
know this. So
Yeah,
let's go to what the Salaf are saying. Again, I am bringing an explicit reference from the Salaf, from Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, saying that
one
Muslims
reference
took
which you're not,
partners in Allah's
which
authority. If they
you're
are taking partners in, I am not misquoting it. If they are taking
misrepresenting,
partners in Allah's authority, I am not
misattributing.
misunderstanding it either. If they are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? Now, the funny thing is, Salafi say that Tawil is Tatil. A lot of them say this. Now you are doing ta'wil of Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas's works. He's explicitly saying Mushriks took
Inshallah, Allah will
partners in
judge that. Okay, listen,
authority.
brother. Listen. Wallahi, yani, I've given you
Address
some
this
time.
point now.
I've
I am
I've
giving
come
you
here
a
to
lot of time
understand
to speak.
something, but
Address
we are
this
not going
point.
anywhere.
No, you are not going anywhere. If they are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah? This is a very simple question. If they are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah?
If they're taking partners in Allah's authority, they do not have Tawheed in Rububiyyah, and those are some
Thank you.
mushrikeen. Not all
Thank
of
you.
them. Not all of them. This is what I'm
Where
trying
are
to
you
tell you.
getting this from? Who
Where are
said
you?
this?
Where are
Who in the
you
Salaf
getting?
said this?
Where are you getting? Where are you getting? I'm getting from the
Tafsir
Quran.
of
I'm
the
getting it from the
Tafsir.
Quran. I'm
You
directly
are
getting
not
it from the
getting out of
Quran.
the Quran. Again,
The the
going to
Quran.
the Quran.
The
My
Quran.
interpretation of the Quran is
The
worthless.
Quran.
Your interpretation of the Quran is
Not
worthless.
mine.
We
Not
go to
mine.
the scholars.
Not
We go to
mine.
the Salaf.
Not mine. Not mine. Not mine.
Yes, it is. Your
You,
interpretation is worthless, just as my interpretation is worthless. The only
yeah,
people whose interpretation actually matters is the
brother.
Salaf.
Why are you screaming,
You know what I'm saying?
brother? Why are you screaming?
Yeah?
Let's calm down. Why are you screaming?
Because you don't let me speak.
Come on,
Why
please.
would
Come on. You've been screaming from the beginning.
yes,
Come on.
come on.
Let's calm down. Right? It
I
is not
am
my.
calm.
It is not
If
my
the Salaf
interpretation.
are taking partners,
Yes,
if the
they did.
Mushriks are taking partners in Allah's authority, how can they have Tawheed in Rububiyyah?
The Salaf believed, which you can find in the works of the Mufassirun, that they believed and they
Bring a
actually.
reference. Bring a reference. I am bringing references from the tafsir you accept as authoritative.
You have bought no reference. You have bought one ayah which is misattributing the idea. It is not relevant to our
I
topic.
have to know it's been more than 2 hours. So we can continue this later.
I don't think